I'm looking forward to what you all are doing. I'm super excited to be a part of what you guys are doing. The mold that you all are building is a powerful thing. I've been watching how you guys have been collaborating. And I just want to applaud you. I'm watching you guys. I'm learning from you. I'm admiring you. So thank you for having me on.
Hey, this is Seth Yolorda.
Yo, what's going on? This is Pastor Noah Weinstein.
This is Pastor Tina Kerger.
I'm Pastor Sean Moss.
This is Pastor JD.
This is Pastor Kimberly Mann.
What's up, everybody? Pierre Quinn here, and you are watching Recharge.
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 Recharge. Recharge.
Recharge.
Recharge.
Recharge. Recharge. You are watching Recharge Worship.
What's going on, everybody? This is Pastor Kyle, and I am co-pastor of Recharge Worship. And listen, guys, this month, October, is a very special month for so many people, as well as myself personally. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so what we wanted to do during this month is, I know we're dealing with mental health in our worship service and in the podcast space, but we also wanted to provide something to just kind of talk about and highlight, people who are dealing with breast cancer. This week, I looked at some of the numbers, and breast cancer, they're saying, is affecting at least 1 in 8 women throughout the United States. It affects about 12% of Black women. And then also, one of the alarming things that I saw was that Black women are 42% more likely to die than white women of breast cancer. So this is something that I personally have known someone, as we're going to talk about today, who's going through it. I also had a friend to go through it, and many of you guys know people who have gone through it. So throughout this month, we just kind of want to talk to individuals who have gone through breast cancer. And then we also want to talk to people who have lost a loved one to breast cancer and kind of get that side as well, because this month, we're not just celebrating those who have survived, but we're also celebrating those who have lost their lives to breast cancer, and want to talk about how that has affected their family members and how they dealt with that. Just kind of give you guys some tools of maybe how to handle those situations if you're in it, God forbid, but also want to talk about just, firsthand experience of dealing with breast cancer. So today, I have a special guest. It's my mom, Rita Crawford. She's here, as you guys can see. And we just want to talk to her just about her journey through breast cancer. So thank you for joining us. Appreciate you for coming through. Yeah, that looks a whole lot better. What made you even think that you have breast cancer? Like, what was the thing that made you say, I need to go check this out?
Well, thank you, first of all, Recharge family, for having me here. I really appreciate what you guys do on this platform. And I'm not just saying that because I'm related to you. I think you guys have a lot of pertinent information. But I am a person who would do my breast exams every month. And unfortunately, many of us don't do our exams every month. So in March of 2011, I did my exam, and I found something, but I didn't pay it any attention because I have fibroids in my breast. And then in April, I did my exam, and I found something. I found the same little lump had grown, and that really alarmed me. So I made an appointment to see my GYN, but unfortunately, our healthcare had changed from my job. I work for a school district here, and they had cut back on our healthcare. So I had to search around, and I finally found someone. And when I did, it was a woman, and a Jewish woman. And I'm saying that for a reason, and I'll tell you that later. But she did the exam. And while I was in the exam room, she said, just like this, wait. She went out and she got a mini ultrasound, and she did an ultrasound, and she said, I think you have cancer. And so 3 days later, she had me in with a surgeon. Unfortunately, because of my health care, I would not be covered if my surgeon actually diagnosed me with breast cancer. So she did an interview first, and she said, this is a lengthy process, and it's extremely expensive process. So they got me involved in this program called the Breast Cancer Detection Program. It's a federally funded program for women who are underinsured or have no insurance at all.
Wow.
And so I had to go through the county. And when I went into the county, they said, okay, we're going to see you, but this is what I need you to understand. This is why I mentioned that my GYN was Jewish. The surgeon she sent me to It's Chinese, a woman also. So that was April. So they thought I was going to be seen in May, and towards the end of the May, they had still not seen me. And so my GYN and the surgeon said, Black women will fall through the cracks. Excuse me, I get
Sorry.
a little emotional. She said,
Yeah.
they said, Black women will fall through the cracks, but we're not going to allow you to fall through the cracks. We're going to call them, write them. And within a few days, they had me in to see the medical oncologist so that I could get started on my chemotherapy.
Wow.
So really, really appreciated them. But one other thing, before I did my exam, I had some odd sensations in my arm. I thought I had tennis elbow or something. Come to find out, not only did I have breast cancer, but it had spread to my lymph nodes. And so that's why I was having that odd sensation in my elbow.
So, you talked about the procedural side of the things that you did when you got diagnosed. But what was like the emotional side? How do you feel when you hear, I think it may be cancer, and how do you feel when they kind of confirm it that it actually is cancer?
Well, I think I already knew. I think when I did the exam in April and I felt that lump and it had grown, I pretty much knew, like kind of just knowing that you're pregnant. I just knew it. But when it was confirmed, I just was numb. I was concerned about you, my son, what my not being here would do to you. And then some of my family members, I was concerned about my absence from their lives and how they would function through it. I cannot say that I was concerned about my physical life, and I don't really understand why, but I was just numb. It was like I was void of feelings.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I think that kind of as you're talking about how it feels or how it felt, I think that there's probably a number of people who can identify with that feeling. Who have had breast cancer or who have just been diagnosed with it. I'm sure that you're not alone in feeling that way because we all process things differently. And what may seem strange to one person may seem, it may connect with another person because that's the way that you feel. You can't help how you feel, how you react. You just react. So it's interesting to hear you say those things. So one of the things that I noticed immediately, because you and we'll get to when you told me and all that and how you process that, but like one of the things that I noticed is that you became you just became like just a avid seeker of information about breast cancer. Like when I would come home, there would be books about breast cancer, there would be folders about things dealing with breast cancer. You kind of took on the mindset about, of that I'm going to learn as much as I can about this disease. When did that happen? Did that happen a couple weeks after you found out, you realized that you had it, or did that happen when the procedure started? When did that happen?
It happened when I started with the chemo. I had a conversation with my sister, and she said, Rita, I don't think this is something for you. She said, I think this is something that you're going to go through so that you can help other people. And when she said that, that resonated with me, and I wanted to know more. And so as I was trying to get information from the doctors, I did what everyone else does. You Google it and you look for information, but there's so much information and you don't know how to weed through all of that information. Mm-hmm. So I spoke with several of the doctors and they said, well, this is how it works. You have a radiation oncologist and they just deal with radiology. You have a medical oncologist and they just deal with the medical side of the chemo. Everybody was compartmentalized. And so I wanted to figure out how can I bring all of those things together so that if someone else, whoever I talk to or who wants information from me, doesn't have to do what I did. So I did. I called the American Cancer Society. I had them send me everything. And as I said, I talked with many of my doctors as I went through the process to get as much information as I could, because again, this is such a devastating diagnosis, because it is life-threatening and it is going. It's like a laser beam. You're just so focused.
I would come home and I would see like just more and more. I mean, binders and binders of things. You know, and yeah, that's interesting. So I guess to jump back, that's something that I saw, but I guess what I didn't see was the process of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't see that. I know you told me a few things about how that process was. But you know, for me and for the rest of the folk who are going to listen to this or see this, how was chemotherapy for you?
Well, first I want to say chemotherapy is a catch-all term for many different drugs that fight cancer. So
Okay,
depending
that's good to
on the
know.
drug that you have, that determines, you know, how it's going to function in your body. And every body is very, very different. And so my experience is not someone else's experience. Just that, I need to say that first.
Yeah.
Someone can go through chemo and just breeze through and work every day and, you know, doesn't have any complications. Unfortunately for me, it was a very difficult journey and it was very complicated and I had a great deal of side effects. It was the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my life other than dealing with, you know, someone else's death. It was terrible on my body, on my mind. It was just awful. I went every 2 weeks because I had it was aggressive, and I had the drug that they have labeled Red Devil because it just wreaks havoc on your body. So I would go in, and I did not have a port. A port is a I don't know what you. It's like it's something that they insert in your body so that they can administer the chemo drug through the port. I chose not to have a port, so I had it in my arm. So I would go in and it would take 5 to 6 hours to administer the drug. They give you like anti-anxiety drugs, and then they give you something else to coat your veins, and then you go through the process. And then when I would go home, I was extremely sick, and then I would just flatline. And the drug is very potent because when you use the restroom for the next couple of days, you have to disinfect everything after you use the restroom.
Wow.
So it was just, I'm very glad that you never saw that part because it was horrific. It was horrific.
Wow.
And then I had to give myself the shot. And then once I started feeling better, it was time to go back and do it all over again.
Wow. Wow. And that lasted how many weeks? Or how many rounds did you have to go? Months?
I went for 5 months.
5 months. Wow. Yeah.
Every 2 weeks, 5 months. Yeah.
Wow. 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 And so you talked about how just it kind of took a toll on everything. Yeah, because I so you know, for people wondering like where I was at, I was out at school. Okay, so with that, you're going through chemo. You are completely exhausted. All of those things. You know, those. You know, when you talk about those situations, what is like the motivation to like keep fighting it? Like you're going and you're getting this drug. It takes, you know, you said 5 to 6 hours, I believe is what you said. So you're getting this drug put in you and it's wiping you out pretty much until the next time you go.
Yeah.
What is the thing that just says keep going?
I went through so much. I think every woman that goes through this has these moments where they just want to scream and, you know, and knock stuff over and all of those kinds of things that you deal with. But basically, I'll be perfectly honest. I needed to see you graduate.
Yeah, I was about to say that. You used to say that all the time. I need to see you walk across the stage.
Yeah. Okay, so you're asking, let me answer that question. So my main motivation was I needed to see you graduate from university. That was really so very important to me. I needed to see you walk across that stage, get your diploma. That was ultimate. Like,
yeah,
I have to be here to see that.
So okay, so you have this this motivating event in your life. I'd see Kyle graduate. I'd see my son walk across the stage. After all of the craziness that, you know, has happened in life, I got to see this event. I got to see.
And all the stuff you put me through.
That
So,
too, that too, right? I got to see this come to a close, and so that kind of motivated you. But one of the other things that I noticed too, like when I came home a few times, was that you know you were motivated by that, but it seemed like you were also motivated by helping other people who were dealing with the same thing, and also being in a space where people understood what you're going through. So I talked about this the last time I preached, or this time before this. There's a book that I've been reading. My therapist kind of put me on this book called "The Body Keeps the Score," and I think might have told you about it. But basically, they talk about, or maybe not. they talk about this idea that when somebody goes through a traumatic situation or through trauma, that the world gets split into two. That people are placed into two categories: those who understand and those who don't. Right. So the people who understand, they've been through some level of trauma to where they understand what it is you're going through. But the people who have never experienced it, they get lumped into the category of they don't understand. And so you're less likely to confide in those people. You're less likely to connect with those people. And the reason I'm saying that is because one of the things that I saw you heavily involved in when I would come back home or when I would talk to you on the phone is support groups. Right.
yeah.
And so that would be the category that does understand. And one of the things that you used to always say is you're not telling everybody that you had breast cancer because you didn't want just whatever, you didn't want to answer the questions, you didn't want them to be, acting like different around you, those type of things. You wanted to be around people who understood what you're going through. So just kind of talk to us about just, your experience in support groups.
Okay. So the way I got into the support group is that my two doctors that I talked to you about told me you must get into support group. You need people around you who understand. And so that's how I ended up being in the support group. They were not of my faith, but they were women of faith. And what I found interesting is that when I looked around in our denomination, there were no support groups. And that kind of initiated me trying to put together a support group. So there would be support groups planted in many different churches. But the main reason the support group is important is because you need a place to go where you can scream and yell and shout, and you can talk about everything just like in every other support group. But in particular with cancer is that this is long term. This isn't short term. It's not going away. I mean, physically, your body, you can be in remission, but you have this thing that people talk about called a new normal. You're not the same once you go through chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, and then hormonal therapy. Your body is different. Your mind is different. Everything is completely different.
How did you feel having to tell your family members this? Like, how did you feel having to tell me this? How did you feel having to tell, your sister? You know what I mean? Like, how did you feel having to tell, people that are close to you that you have breast cancer?
Well, first of all, I, of course, had to tell you. And you were at school and you were studying, you were working really hard. And I'm just sure it was the Holy Spirit. I just felt like I didn't want to contaminate the area that you were studying in. I wanted your school life to be a safe place. And I kept going back to, I don't want to contaminate that space. So then I thought, I need to bring him home and then I need to tell him. And so you came home and you really didn't know what was going on. And I remember at the time I was teaching Sabbath school and I brought you back to my Sabbath school classroom and sat you down and told you. And I was so scared. I was so afraid of the results, how you would respond. That's one of the reasons I brought you back into my Sabbath school classroom. And I was so proud of how you responded. The first thing I remember you saying is, Mom, God's got this. We're going to pray about this. God's got this. I don't know what you were going on.
No, that's after I cried. Like, that's after I cried. I remember. I'll never forget that. Yeah, that's after I cried a lot. Yeah.
So I said when you responded.
Oh yeah. No, it took a minute. Yeah, I don't know. For me, and I guess we'll kind of get to this when I talk to my friend Justin. There's a lot of feelings that go on as a person who's getting the news, right? I immediately thought you were about to die. Like that's, I just thought like, what? Like, and then I thought like, okay, well, nobody's out here with her, those type of things. A lot of confusion, frustration, all of those things happening at once. And you really don't know. Yeah, and I think I don't know why I was like, hey, God's got this. We should pray about it. But I felt like if it was doing that to me, it had to be doing that to you even worse, because you actually have the cancer, not me. And so I didn't want to be a burden.
Now, I'm going to interject here. I think that if something happens to a parent when they have devastating news to give to their kids, I think we just go into hyperdrive and we want to protect our children, regardless of how old they are, how young they are. We just want to protect them. And so whatever we need to do, I think we try to do. And so I think that's why I didn't want to contaminate, the area where you were living and going to school. I felt like if I came there and said it and left, it would just resonate. It would just kind of hang in the air. And I realized that it was with you and you were going to take it, but you needed a place to escape to. And so that's why I didn't want to tell you in that space. And then the way I told my sister, when I talked to her about it, she had to process it. And it was a long process for her. And then finally, when she did process it, she said, I don't think this is something for you. I think this is something that you need to go through to help others.
Wow.
So I feel, So, and then the information kind of got disseminated from her, from you. And the reason I didn't want to tell people for several reasons. One, I was a Sabbath school teacher teaching kindergarten children. I didn't want them to worry. I didn't want to tell people who weren't already friends with me because I didn't want, I didn't want to hear, oh, are you okay? How are you doing? I just didn't want to hear that. And I didn't want people who didn't already love me to have to fake that, And they may not have been faking, but I don't know. I just wanted to be surrounded by people who already knew me, who already loved me. That was important for me. For other people, they will tell everybody, and they do want as many prayers and support as they can get. That's just who I am. Yeah.
So it's interesting just, to hear how different people deal with different things. And, those are things that, you have to respect, right? Like for me, I remember, I think I asked you one time and you told me that exact thing that you just said. I was like, why didn't you tell anybody? You're just, and you told me that. And so you got to respect it. So I remember, I told people.
But if you remember, right. But remember, I told you, I said, you can tell whoever you want. That's up to you. I didn't want to limit you.
But just to, I think for me, just to respect, how you wanted to handle the situation, I didn't really tell too many people. I told, I had to say something to one of my professors because I was, I had to leave when you had surgery. And he, he asked me if it was cool if he shared it with the class. So he did. And they were praying, during the whole situation. They were there to hear, when I came back, the surgery went well, all those things. But I, just out of respect for how you want to handle the situation, I really didn't say anything either.
Are you okay?
Am I okay?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
As you're talking about this, are you all right?
I'm good. I'm all right. It does bring back a little bit of emotions there because I do, those are things that you don't ever forget. But I think that's why we're having this conversation, because there are tons of people who are dealing with this, who have family members that are going through it, and they're able to see, this is why I kind of wanted the first one to be, with you, because it's personal for me because you're my mom, and people are able to kind of see that, hey, even though this thing is done, there's still damage that it's called. There's still, there's still feelings and emotions there,
And one of the things, when I talk with other survivors, we go through a lot of things. I remember when a very dear friend of mine passed away, I had survivor guilt, and people don't talk about survivor guilt. Lord, why me? Why? When my hair grew back, because I was completely bald. I had 3 strands of hair. I never shaved. I had 3 strands of hair, but obviously my hair's grown back. So I remember the first time I uncovered my hair and I had to go to the American Cancer Society. And there was a young lady there who had just lost her hair. And I was just devastated. I wanted to cover my hair up. I felt so guilty for having hair, and I felt guilty for being alive. Um, Survivor guilt is a really odd thing because this is a very personalized situation. Some people will survive, and some people will survive by sleeping in the Lord. It's just kind of a crazy emotional roller coaster that you never quite get used to. You just learn to live with it. It's like I said, it's a new normal for you.
Wow, wow, and I'm glad you kind of shared that aspect, because I was going to ask you about that, because one of the things being in a support group, you're around people who are also diagnosed with breast cancer. Some people may be in remission, but then sometimes, as I know from you sharing with me, that there are times where someone is in remission and then that thing comes back and then they're no longer here anymore. And so even though you're in this group that is supportive, you also have to deal with new loss even within the group, loss within the group, and you hear about what other people are going through. So I'm glad that you touched on that, because I actually never have heard that, but that's a real thing.
Well, sometimes because of that, this is a unique situation. Sometimes people have to remove themselves from the group for a while, or sometimes a person will belong to more than one support group. For example, the support group that I belong to, it's just women. But there are support groups where it's like it's a husband and a wife, or they're family support groups, or because there are women, who are getting diagnosed, who are going through treatment, who have children, small children at home. And so you could belong to many different groups to get the support that you need. And I do want to say this, that within our support group, even though we're talking about this and it's kind of somber, we do a lot of joking. There are a lot of jokes. There are a lot, like chemo brain is real. Like, so when I forget things and you say, huh, it's like, oh, chemo brain, but yeah, so
Yeah.
so and that's the other thing, like, even though this is, what it is, but we do, laugh and we joke and we talk and we uplift each other and encourage one another. We have parties and, there's a lot of different things to, lift your spirit.
Yeah. So I'm glad that we switched. So we changed the tone, right? So we went to a positive, and I kind of want to end on that. Before we get to Save Our Sisters, which is that logo that you guys see in the back, breast cancer support group, Save Our Sisters. I do want to kind of just talk about something that we're celebrating within our family, is that you have been cancer free for how long now?
9 years.
9 years. And that thing went by fast. Like that thing went by super fast. You've been cancer free. Oh, go ahead.
For 9 years. And this is what I do with my students, because I'm still teaching my little guys. Like, give yourself a round of applause, I count my survival from my surgery date, not from my diagnosis date.
Got you. Okay, so it's been 9 years since the day. I remember me and my auntie Lisa were sitting downstairs at Loma Linda Medical Center. And I remember when your doctor came out and she was like, the surgery went well. We think we got everything. You can go see her in about an hour. And I just remember, like, me and Auntie Lisa were just sitting there like, whew, like that thing was, and yeah, like it was just, obviously we're praying and stuff like that, but, I remember her saying, like, it went well. We think we got everything. And so to hear, or to be here 9 years later, talking about it is a miracle. It's a blessing. And so, we celebrate that. So with the 9 years, people do many things after they come out of a situation. Most people, when they're affected by something, they tend to dedicate the majority of their time, and their new passion becomes, that thing that they just dealt with. And so it's kind of the same with you. Like, for the past 9 years, we talked about earlier, you've been, laser focused, looking at all the information you can about breast cancer. But one of the things that you've done during the 9 years is create a support group called Save Our Sisters. So tell us a little bit about that as we kind of close.
Well, thank you so much for asking about Save Our Sisters. You can't miss it, can you? As I said before, when my sister said to me, I don't think this is something for you, but I think it's something that you need to go through. That same day that she said that, I just felt like the Holy Spirit just came upon me, and I just took out a pad and pencil, and I just started writing down all the things that happened to me and all the things that I was concerned about. One of the things that happened to me is that they had to delay my chemo for a couple of weeks because I had this issue with my tooth.
Hmm.
Protocol may have changed now, but when I was diagnosed, you didn't see the dentist before you had your chemo. Come to find out, I had a very bad infection. They had to pull the tooth, and if I would have gotten chemo on Tuesday, I would have been dead by Friday.
Wow.
Because the infection would have spread throughout my body. The chemo would have depleted my white blood cells. My ability to fight would have been over. And so that was one of the things that I was concerned about. And so I wrote all these things down. And Save Our Sisters is the term or the title of the support group, but we turned it into a breast cancer awareness conference in conjunction with the oncology department at Loma Linda University Medical Center. We were doing a conference every year and talking about those issues such as dental hygiene and chemotherapy, issues that people don't normally see, that they don't think to Google. And because every part of the journey, your oncologists are all different and compartmentalized, I needed to figure out how to bring all those things together. The conference seemed the best way to do it. And Save Our Sisters is the name of this support group is what God gave to me. And so that's how that came together. We've had sponsorships from not only the medical center, but corporations as well to help fund it. We haven't had it for the last year because I was going through some issues, and my oncologist said, you need to rest. Don't do it this year. So that was last year. So now we are in the process of trying to do a virtual conference, and I'm waiting for my doctors because they donate their time. They said this is something they've never seen before, and no matter where it is, no matter what's done, they want to be a part of it. So right now they're trying to adjust their schedules because everything is virtual now. And so tentatively, we want to do it on the last Sunday of this month. And if we're able to do that, then I will share information with you and get some flyers that you can put up. And if not, we will have some sort of a conference, but not to the extent we've done before.
So you're talking about doing the conference tentatively at the end of this month. If not then definitely soon, as you're saying. One of the things that we know that people who are putting on conferences need is money. So listen, if you've listened to this and you felt impressed to give to Save Our Sisters, we are going to put up ways that you can give in the next week or two so that you can give to this organization, Save Our Sisters. All of the proceeds are going to go to, the conference, getting people together to speak about different topics that women who are dealing with breast cancer need to know. None of the profits or proceeds that you send are going to be spent on anything personal. Everything is going to go to just spreading the information about breast cancer and breast cancer awareness. So in the coming weeks, look for information from Recharge Worship as to how you can give to that. So look out for ways that you can give. So we'll end here. So, you're 9 years cancer free. What are 5 things that you would tell someone who has just been diagnosed with breast cancer? What are 5 things that you would tell them?
Okay, so the first thing I would say is do not Google your diagnosis. Do not Google your diagnosis because you'll be overwhelmed with the amount of information that you'll have and your head will spin. The second thing I would say is advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself. Doctors, nurses, they're just people who have specialized in something. Just like a mechanic has gone to school to learn how to work on your car, you need to be able to say, this is how I feel, this is how I don't feel. One of the things that happened to me is that they had to change the medication for me because one of the maintenance drugs after everything was finished, I told you this, but it caused me to become suicidal. I was having I was just having these very odd thoughts. And then I was walking in the living room and I fell out because I just fell out. And so the doctors thought I was having a stroke, but I wasn't having a stroke. It was reaction to the medication. And They wanted to keep me on the medication, but then I said again, back to these two women advocating for myself. They said, advocate for yourself. I wasn't a part of that study, so you don't know how I'm going to react, and this reaction was real. So, and then they changed the medication, everything was fine. So advocate for yourself. The next thing I would say is make sure you have a good support group. Not only your family and your friends, but an outside group that's able to support you in ways that your family and friends can't because they haven't gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
And let me say this, it's very different to be supported by someone who was diagnosed and just had surgery and someone who had to go through every single thing. So a support group has such a wide range of people, because I went through chemotherapy, the surgery, radiation, maintenance drug, and I'm still on the maintenance drug. So, and then I would say, get rid of people that don't need to be in your life. This is like a very cathartic, cleansing thing. There are people who are toxic. And if you need to remove those people from your life, and let me be perfectly clear, it does not matter if they are family. If they are toxic, you need to remove them from your life because your main goal is to fight for your life to survive. You don't need any added stress. Just get rid of toxic people. And last, I would say, understand that you have a new normal. Things are not going to be the way they were before. You have a new normal. If your weight starts going up, don't beat yourself up because sometimes the drugs will cause you to hold on to weight. Your focus again is getting through, surviving, and being able to praise God through everything. And then lastly, I know you said 5, and I'm going to say this.
Go ahead.
Trust in the Lord. God loves you. He made you. I'm so sorry.
Good.
Every single hair on my head was normal. Was counted by God, and those 3 strands of hair that stayed in my head, God knew which numbers that they were. Just knowing that when I would take my scarf off and I had this little 3 strands, I knew that my Savior knew which number of those that was still in my head, and I thank Him so much. I know that sounds so goofy and so.
No. That all that does is that's when
You're really mad at me.
That's when God becomes personal, right? That's when He becomes personal, because for many people we read that verse and oh man, He knows how many hairs. That's pretty cool, He knows how many hairs. But when you only have 3, knowing that God even knows that, that's God becoming personal. So don't worry about that.
I just want to say, I know you guys are doing, you're being supportive of mental health. One of the other part of breast cancer is being a therapist is so very important. And that's something that we do in our conference is that we do offer, that kind of support. And so I think this fits right into what you're doing because, it's good to be able to talk to somebody. And this is of course different from your support group because,
Yeah, be on the lookout for just more information about the conference. Make sure that you are on the lookout for more information about ways that you can give. We're going to continue to, like I said, we'll in the future we'll put up ways that you can give to this organization as well as update you just on the date of the conference. If you know somebody who is dealing with breast cancer, somebody who has dealt with breast cancer, this is something that you want them as well as their families to be a part of. So you'll hear more information about that moving forward from us as well as from Save Our Sisters. Listen, we're grateful to have this opportunity to talk to a breast cancer survivor. This is the month that we celebrate Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but we also celebrate the survivors as well as those who have battled through and lost their lives. So this month you're going to hear not just from people who have survived, but you're going to hear from individuals who have lost loved ones to this disease. As they said, as it was stated earlier, breast cancer affects African American women less than white women, but African American women die at a higher rate than white women do. So we want to just bring awareness to this issue, bring awareness to this disease, and do everything that we can to equip people with knowledge about the fight against breast cancer. So thank you, Ma. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward for what God is going to do in the next 9 years of your life being cancer-free. And again, we celebrate every single person who has had to deal with breast cancer, whether they survived or whether they lost their life. We celebrate you this month. God bless you.
I'm looking forward to what you all are doing. I'm super excited to be a part of what you guys are doing. The mold that you all are building is a powerful thing. I've been watching how you guys have been collaborating. And I just want to applaud you. I'm watching you guys. I'm learning from you. I'm admiring you. So thank you for having me on.
Hey, this is Seth Yolorda.
Yo, what's going on? This is Pastor Noah Weinstein.
This is Pastor Tina Kerger.
I'm Pastor Sean Moss.
This is Pastor JD.
This is Pastor Kimberly Mann.
What's up, everybody? Pierre Quinn here, and you are watching Recharge.
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 Recharge. Recharge.
Recharge.
Recharge.
Recharge.
Recharge. You are watching Recharge Worship.